55, 56, on a farm, a pretty large farm on the outskirts of Young, country town of Young. I was out shooting rabbits with three young mates. We're all around 18, 19. So we're on this property where most of it had been cleared for farming, for grazing. On this rather large hill, all of the forest had been left. So we had dense forest just above me and open land below me. We're out shooting. We're walking pretty much on the dividing line between the forest and the open land. And there was this massive noise behind us. It sounded like a train had just come out of the forest, but it was a huge kangaroo. And I don't know whether you ever had a kangaroo roar past you at full speed, but the noise is quite astonishing. It came roaring past us, and my three mates started firing .22 rifles at it. Heaven knows why we wanted to hurt a kangaroo, but, it was the 50s. For some reason, I turned slightly left and looked about 15 metres up into the forest. And I was stunned to see a creature standing on two legs. I'd estimate about 5 feet tall, maybe a little taller, covered in brownish hair, not very long hair, and with a face that was almost human. The thing I remember most about it was looking into its brown eyes. And I think the thing that stunned me, because my mates were still firing off 22 shots and screaming and yelling, and this creature, it didn't budge. It showed no concern whatsoever. It was simply standing there holding a branch, and it was eating leaves off this branch. All of a sudden, my friends stopped shooting at the kangaroo and turned to me. So obviously, I'd said something pretty direct and dramatic to get their attention. I don't remember any of that. All I remember is I turned to them. They were looking at me in the face, staring at me, saying, what are you on about? I turned slightly to the left again, and all I was thinking of, please, still be there. Please stand there as you were 15 seconds ago. And all I saw was a finger disappearing into the forest and a branch just moving slightly as the animal moved away. I then had this terrible decision that I had to make in a couple of seconds. Did I tell them that I'd seen something astonishing and go running up there trying to find it and risk being regarded as a complete fool, or do I just shut up? And I just decided to shut up. My friends clearly knew that I'd seen something, and I must have fobbed them off with, I think it was a dog or a cow or some other explanation. Anyway, we proceeded to hunt for rabbits unsuccessfully. We went back to the farm, where the farmer's name was Jim, his wife was Thelma, and Thelma had promised us this afternoon tea, which included scones and cream and strawberry jam, so we were looking forward to that. All I was thinking of as I went back to the farm was, please don't say anything. Please don't mention this. Let's just forget it. We sat down to our afternoon tea, and Jim said, you never had much success up there, you didn't see anything. And one of my mates sort of laughed as if he knew something that no one else knew, and a funny little laugh, and said, Frank saw something, didn't you, Frank? And I was mortified, of course. All I remember is Jim was at the stove, and he turned around, and his eyes met mine, and I knew immediately that he had seen what I'd just seen. We never mentioned it again, and I left Young about 6 months later. I never mentioned this to anybody. I never heard any explanation of what I'd seen. I just simply took it as some bizarre event that I could not explain. And then, many years later, I was reading the Sunday paper in Perth. I remember I was standing up, I was having breakfast, having a cup of tea. I turned the page over, and there was the creature looking at me. It was an article, and he was saying how he was going to mount an expedition for the great hairy man of Eastern Australia, the Yowie. I'd never heard of it before. I wrote straight away, had several conversations with him. He never found the Yowie or any remains of the creature, and I ended up researching it for about 10 years. I reached the same conclusion that I had seen something. It was inexplicable. There was no solution that I could find. There were no bones, no habitat, no other remains that suggested this creature lived in Australia. And so, it became, I suppose, part of another Aboriginal myth. I don't think I've ever met anyone else who saw a Yowie. No, I don't actually claim to have seen a Yowie. I merely claim that I saw this creature, and then there was this sketch in the Sunday paper which was like identical. It wasn't approximately like it. It was absolutely identical. That was the stunning thing. And the other paragraph, I remember, people had told him that it had short hair, but the hair was dirty, reddy brown. And I thought, that is exactly the description. Dirty, reddy brown, short hair. It was about 5 feet tall, I think. It's a bit of a guess, but I think I was looking uphill. It wasn't large. It definitely wasn't anything like some of the large Bigfoot type reports that I've seen in Aboriginal folklore or even recent sightings. It was much smaller. It was covered in this short, dirty, reddy brown hair. Its face was not particularly hairy around the front features. Its face was more human. It had very large brown eyes. I remember that distinctly. I can't remember whether I was looking at a male or a female. I just can't remember that. I didn't notice any sexual identification. As I say, the hair wasn't particularly long. It was matted in places. I can remember that. The face was somewhere between a monkey's and a human's.
You made an interesting comment about that you seem to, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, so correct me, but some kind of a connection when you were looking, or should I say you observed an emotion?
I made contact with its eyes. That's the thing I remember mainly, because for some bizarre reason, while I'm looking at this thing, my main thought was, why is it just standing there so laconic? Like I got 3 galahs on the right-hand side firing shots, screaming, yelling. A kangaroo has just gone past at full speed, and this thing is just eating a leaf, holding a branch, and looking at me as if none of this matters. That was the most astonishing thing that I could remember. I remember 2 eyes that day. I remember the eyes of that creature, very distinctive, and I did make contact, and I remember the eyes of the farmer when he turned and looked at me.